I do have this question about ChatGPT. So you have this paper called Post-Gutenberg Galaxy, the Fourth Revolution in the Means of Production of Knowledge, where you argue that the internet is a Gutenberg-like invention. And you say that the first revolution was the invention of language, the second revolution was the invention of writing, and the third revolution was the Gutenberg press, and the fourth one being internet. Do you believe that ChatGPT is either the fifth one or approximating a fifth kind of revolution?
It's part of the fourth. It's part of the fourth.
It's part
Uh,
of the. Okay, interesting.
right? I mean, what Chat GPT has done, it's taken the whole of the, not, I'm exaggerating, but the whole of the internet and swallowed it. And it's made itself into the chatbot of the universe. Ask me anything, I'll tell you anything. That's a product of the fourth revolution. That's not, there's not a, but there is something going on. And it's not in that series of revolutions. The revolution that started with language had a lot more happened there than we realized or even realize now. And ChatGPT is beginning to give us an idea of what power there really is in language. I mean, grounding theory already said once you grounded 2,500, 1,500 categories and named them the right ones, you can do everything else with language. That's already a nuclear weapon there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're there's something else the Chat GPT is getting from the immense blob gulp. I call it the big gulp in 2021 when it swallowed all that stuff that we couldn't possibly swallow, which is just a word bag, a huge word bag plus algorithms for extracting information from it and for aligning things, etc. So it's basically a word bag plus computation. What it got out of that was more than I would have thought was in there. It was bigger than a dictionary is in a sense also a kind of a complete word bag because every word in a dictionary is defined by words in the dictionary. That's sort of self-contained. That word bag is beyond that. It's not just dictionaries, it's textbooks, it's manuals, it's courses, it's whatever anybody said to anybody else ever that was true or false. All of that it's got,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it can and the manipulation of, well, I don't know how actively OpenAI keeps a few secrets. I don't think these are important cognitive secrets. Maybe I'm wrong. What we do know about it, we already know. We know about how it guesses the next word, how it's trained to maximize the probability, how it keeps statistics on what co-occurs with what, how it gets parameters, how it puts it into a vector space with distances. We know all that stuff. And we know with that, it produces stuff nobody expected. It was written to summarize stuff that other people had said, and it does that, but it can do more with it. It can generate new stuff out of it, sort of new stuff. Is it really new? I mean, it's, what is going on here?
You just raised the hand by accident.
Why did that happen? I must have done that. Go away. Sorry.
It's okay.
Lower my hand. It's just because I have to stop gesticulating. Okay. Um, it's not clear. I mean, Chat GPT has been accused by, I guess, Emily Bender of being a statistical parrot. It's clearly not a parrot. If it were a parrot, it would have echolalia. It would say what we say. It would just repeat what we say.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously recombining stuff. How is it recombining it? It's combining it. It's recombining it under the help of the under the help of the. Whoops! Stop raising my hands. Under the help of the big gulp, which it's got in its belly, and at its fingertips or whatever all the time. I don't, it's distributed in computers all over the planet, but it's effectively all accessible to it. And to a certain extent, it's accessible what you've just said to it, but not as well. It's out of the combination of all that stuff that it generates new combinations, right? I mean, they're not new. It's recombinations of that stuff. Now, I don't know what I'm saying when I'm saying it's just recombinations of that big gulp, because what we do is largely just recombinations as well. And we can't forget that. But there's more to it. We're doing, and this is where grounding comes in. We are doing grounded recombinations, not just word recombinations.
Right.
When I combine text written by someone else, I carry with it you never leave your grounding. You never really get off the ground. When you get higher and higher, when you get to the point where you've got your 1,500 words that are grounded directly, where if you say apple and you've got your image of the apple and you've got you can say the feature of the apple. Once you're up to pterodactyls, the dinosaurs, you got there from apples, and immediately before it, there are words like dinosaur and animal, etc., which are getting closer and closer to the ground, and they're carrying their sensory motor grounding with them, their categorical perception. Those changes in the way that the world looks because you learned a new word are still there. They're still, and all this nonsense about we do cognition by imagery, we do cognition by verbal stuff in our heads. That's not the explanation. Those are just things that we're aware of while we're introspecting. But it is true that we are carrying that baggage with us when we're upstairs. We never leave it alone. We're never flying. We're always facing it on that. So that's what ChatGPT lacks. And I would have predicted that because it lacks it, it could never even do what it really does do. So it turns out, even though it's not grounded, and grounded only means, for all users, it means sensory motor robotic grounding, not whatever the literature is saying now. And whatever ChatGPT already misuses the word grounding, because in his big gulp, which was in 2021, that was already long after 1990 when the paper appeared. So it had been distorted monstrously. The way, if you look at a Wikipedia article, the way it gets distorted once a bunch of know-nothings start trying to get more airtime by changing things about stuff that they don't understand. So it's been tremendously distorted, but it's lacking that. And I would still be wrong if I said that what's lacking is sensory motor grounding, because there's something else that's going on there. And it's not, and it is happening in wordland. It may be partly dependent on sensory motor robotic grounding, but there is more. Remember in the course, we talked about what a symbol is, and a word is a symbol too. So you have mathematical symbols and you have words as symbols. It's just an arbitrary object, a squiggle or a squoggle that you use, an arbitrary shape that you use to manipulate other symbols, other arbitrary shapes. But if the recipe that you're using is the right recipe, then what comes out will make sense. Okay, and you can make sense of it because you don't just see symbols. You also have a mind and you can interpret the symbols. So you know why you are using that algorithm. You know what some bits of it mean to you, right? Not to the algorithm. And that guidance that you have is not related to the shape of the symbol. As I said, that the symbol shape is arbitrary, but it might be related to the shape of the proposition. Now, and we couldn't have said this before ChatGPT. The difference between cat, which is just the name of a category, cat, and you can pick out cats and you can stroke them and you can feed them, etc. You do the things that you do with cats. You protect them from predators and things like that, and you don't eat them, or any other sentient creature. A cat is not shaped like the word cat or sha or mochka in Hungarian, or what is it in Slovakia?
Machka.
Mochka. Yeah, right. So you recognize mochka.
Did, yes.
But it still doesn't look like a cat at all. Right. But proposition and the cat is on the mat, which is a proposition, also doesn't look like a cat. Or it doesn't look like a cat on a mat.
Right.
Cat doesn't look like cat. Mat doesn't look like mat. On doesn't look like being on something. And cat is on the mat doesn't look like a cat being on the mat. But ChatGPT has another perspective on this, because ChatGPT has in its repertoire the cat is on the cat is on the mat. The mat is on the cat. The dog is on the cat. The mat is on the mat is on the cat. The mat is on the dog, and every other word you can say. And those are constraints that help it not only in recombining words, but in sifting out which words not to be recombined, because there isn't the proposition, well, to pick a Chomsky word, a sentence, there is not, there's the proposition, um, John is easy. Yeah, John is easy to please. John is eager to please. That's all fine. John is eager to please Mary, but there isn't John is easy to please Mary.
Mm.
That would be an error in universal grammar. ChatGPT makes no errors in ordinary grammar, but only because most of what the chat. I think if they had left the swear words in and the racism, etc., maybe they would have gotten more agrammatical ordinary grammar errors from ChatGPT. But they 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 sort of censored them out. But everything, including the ordinary grammar errors, is not a universal grammar error. There are no universal grammar errors in any of the big gulp. And we know that people don't produce grammatical. Maybe if they had a tremendously huge part of it that was linguists talking about, sort of sitting around a table talking about what you could say and what you couldn't say, maybe it would get a few bits of UG violations there, but it doesn't have any. And so all these constraints on what you people do say and what they don't say, and may grammatically, I'm not talking now about meaning, I'm talking grammatically, but may be channeling what it says even in meaning, in when it puts together things for meaning. And Chomsky, and that's just a hunch that somehow Chomsky goes further. He says, I don't think that the grammatical rules of UG, universal grammar, are I mean, in essence, they're not grammatical rules. They're rules for what you have to have in order to have a language that expresses human thought, which is not language at all. And therefore, the sentence, John is easy to please Mary, is not a thinkable thought. You can't think that. There's nothing you can fit that onto that is a thought. And language is really an expression of thought. So what's guiding ChatGPT is not grammar, or not just grammar, but thought, but the constraints on thought.
Right.
I'm not endorsing that, but I'm saying, look, Chomsky is one of the greatest intellectual giants we've ever had. Give his words heed. Turing is too. Darwin is too. So give them their due.